The grand final is here in the Ninja A-League for 2026. Melbourne City hosts the Wellington Phoenix at Amy Park. City aiming for a 5th championship and Wellington trying to break through for the very first time. Riley Henry is one-on-one against the keeper. Around us and she goes. The referee waves away, appeals for a penalty kick. McKenna goes direct into the crossbar.
Fine margins in finals football.
Blocked on the turn, Jale follows up, and it goes wide. Keane back to McNamara. McNamara's going to shoot here. Brilliant!
It's a moment of individual brilliance from the Matilda, from Holly McNamara.
She only had 1 in her last 7 coming into this game. She might have 2 in 2 minutes. McNamara has broken the defensive line and makes it 2. It's a Holly Mac masterclass in the grand final.
But this is precision, this is power, and this is 2 goals in as many minutes by the league's golden boot.
And McKenna's going to shoot from distance. The goals just get better and better. Leticia McKenna has Melbourne City in dreamland.
And maybe the first smile from Michael Matilda.
Vandenberg, second time ball. And a well-shaped header off the crossbar once. 3-1. The lead for Wellington. Loops across high. It's a teasing ball. Woods is up. And Mires bats it away. Hangs it up for grabs. Anthony.
Moments separating results.
And the years of pain are wiped away because Melbourne City are A-League Women's champions once again.
Oh, Melbourne City are your Ninja A-League champions for season 25-26 and their 5th in history. Hello and welcome to Dub Zone. I'm Amy Duggan and I'm joined for a final time this season by A-League's commentator Teo Pellizzeri and 2-time Ninja A-League champion Grace Gill. Great to have you both with us for this episode. You were on comms, the pair of you, for this remarkable game. Tell me how you saw it play out.
Well, for me, I think Melbourne City deserving winners in the end. We spoke ahead of the game, the tactical battle we knew was going to be on our hands, but Michael Matilda had a game plan and it worked to perfection.
This is the best Melbourne City had played in some time, and I think their best had only appeared sporadically through the course of the season. I think back to when they were 2-0 down against Brisbane and then scored 5 to power away and win, and I'm not sure they've had a better performance since then until the grand final. So they went out on a massive high.
Let's get into how it all unfolded. And Grace, it was you that said moments separate results, and that's exactly what we got. A little bit of brilliance from Holly Mac. City had the early running, but it definitely took something special to break the deadlock.
Well, this was very, very special. Holly McNamara struggling to score, I'd say, in open play across the course of the season. She last scored back in February. In this moment, though, she just took the game into her own hands. They'd been knocking at the door and probably afforded a little bit too much space. I think Wellington Phoenix would have looked at that moment and thought what could have been.
If they'd made it to half-time 0-0, the Phoenix, they would have been emboldened by having weathered City's best. And the general trend of the game did feel as though City were taking over the running. And what really hurt them is that they went and conceded again straight away, and there was a gap put in the game. If it's 1-0 at half-time, it's something to work with. But it really felt like City separated themselves as the better side as a result.
Well, as you mentioned, there was barely a moment to recover before the Mac was away again. This was vintage Holly McNamara, this one.
I mean, the loss of possession, you'll speak to the duel that creates it, Grace, but McNamara's straight line speed is why she's been attracting so much attention and why defences have been committing numbers to her. Maybe the Phoenix thought that their setup would be able to contain Holly McNamara sitting deep, wouldn't allow her to use her pace and exploit them. And this is a trademark Holly McNamara goal.
It is, and it's a tactical battle in the middle of the park that I think Matilda got really right. So Shelby McMahon up against Pia Vlock, and on that occasion and across the course of the first 45 minutes, Shelby McMahon absolutely stood up over Pia Vlock. And that right-hand side for City's attack, they'd been starting really, really well. Wellington didn't have an answer, and that was such a well-taken finish.
Any comments on Shelby Mack and the way she played this game, Teo?
Well, it was a great, as Grace identified, one-on-one battle. The physicality of it as well. You don't expect a player who's just turned 18 to be in a duel situation and bodying a 17-year-old. But really, rather than a veteran trying to close down Wellington's young, creative force, Shelby McMahon was the one who took on the responsibility.
She was great, and I was watching those two off the ball because even when the ball wasn't actually near Shelby and Pia, Shelby was getting into her. She was really close into her space, and I think Pia Vlock, in her first ever A-League appearance, finals appearance this season, just didn't quite have the edge to match it.
There are plenty of great one-on-one battles across the field, that is for sure. We are going to hear now from the player of the grand final and brace goal scorer Holly Mack at the post-match press conference.
This morning I actually realised it was my first grand final. Obviously watching the last one was kind of heartbreaking. I remember shedding a few tears after that loss because you kind of feel helpless. So I think I just wanted to put my best foot forward today in probably one of our biggest games of the year. And yeah, just so happy that we won. Yeah, I think I'm obviously off contract at City and kind of I've built my base here and I've got the kind of match minutes that I wanted to coming off an injury. So we'll kind of see how the next few weeks go and things like that. But yeah, no decisions made yet.
Holly McNamara there, 2 goals in the grand final and a regular for the Matildas. But the question is, she's now off contract. Where do you think Holly Mack will end up, Grace?
It's a great question. We spoke to her on the panel after the game and we said, well, we've loved watching you in the A-League, but what happens now? Do you look for a move abroad? Do you look to go for an overseas opportunity? And she played it pretty coy and she said, I'd love to go overseas. It would be the dream. And when pushed a little bit more, she said, well, obviously in England, the WSL and the WSL2 is in a really good state at the moment. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see her in England.
I normally don't advocate for this sort of position because normally we look at things through the lens of what serves your national team selection chances the best and what serves the Matildas the best. But I'm going to go the other way. I think Holly McNamara needs to take the best money and the longest contract for the simple reason that she's already had 3 ACLs. She is one more major injury away from potentially having to come back to Australia and only ever be a player in the Ninja A-League. She needs the job security and her stocks are high. She's played her first full season without any sort of injury interruption of a significant nature. So pen with the club that's going to give you the best money to set yourself up in football and also the most number of years so that if you do have injuries, they're obligated to help rehab you and help get you back to your best.
I think her stocks are incredibly high, but sort of disagree to the extent that I think the best place for Holly to go is where she's going to be supported well and gets to play good football, not just the most money with the longest contract. It's the environment. And we see at City, she's had an excellent year because she's been so well supported, she's fit, she's looking amazing, she's playing really, really well. She needs the environment to be right.
I would agree with you for any other player. I just think it's the unique circumstances of Holly McNamara already having 3 ACLs.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And to be fair, she hasn't really been challenged this year at City. And in fact, we were critical of her cruising through until she finally stepped up with his magical goals in the grand final. Let's talk about another magician on the field because last week on the show, Bianca Garlich highlighted Leticia McKenna as a game breaker for City. And that she did in the second half, making the most of the space provided to her with a perfect strike into the top left corner. This one, have a look at Holly Mack's face. Even she was stunned.
Yeah, Teo and I watching this, commentating this, had the best view and the angle of this strike. I knew the moment it came off her boot. I think I looked across at Teo and our jaws were on the floor, much like Holly Mack's were, because it was such a well-taken hit.
3 minutes into the second half, so halftime team talk goes out the window. Is this just Wellington failing to switch back on at the start of the second half? Was it a defensive strategy to sit a bit deeper and stand off? I mean, it's foolhardy to dare Leticia McKenna to shoot from distance against you. So is this just a straight-up error from the Phoenix defence, or do you think that they actually were going to roll the dice on giving that sort of space?
I don't think you can give either Holly Mack or Leticia McKenna that kind of space in and around the 18-yard box. I think even if that space had been closed down, though, that was such a beautiful hit that there was nothing Vic Essen could have done about it on that occasion.
Absolutely. And you did see it in the first half with Holly Mack's goal. The defence didn't step up onto Holly Mack. There was a miscommunication in defenders dropping back and the next one not picking her up. And I think in this, McKenna just sees the space. She was on the right-hand side of the box and then dribbles even more central towards before she just picks out the most beautiful shot, and what a finish it was. Which sees City complete the double, premiers and champions. They made the most of the brief time they had to celebrate before hopping on a plane to South Korea for the AFC Champions League finals. Where does this side rank for you, Grace, in the history of the Ninja A-League, given how many great Melbourne City sides we've seen?
It's a great question. It's a big question. I think there's a level of maturity about this playing group and a togetherness that has got them to do the double so far. Really, really impressive performances and a pragmatism about the way that Michael Matriciani plays. I mean, not every team can go through and do the double. It's only happened on 7 occasions across the course of 18 years. They rank pretty highly. I don't know if they're up there with the best. I always cast my mind back to the likes of the City with the likes of a Fishlock and a Catley and a little, it's hard to look past that. But that takes nothing away from this City group because I think they've been really sound.
This is finally the end product of the next evolution, because after 2020, a team which was effectively the proxy Matildas moved on, went to overseas leagues, and they had to rebuild. They have started taking on players that didn't have Matildas caps. They've turned them into Matildas. They've brought through younger players. They've become younger and more Victorian and better represented their area. So they have evolved, and it is a next triumph that they've ticked off with regards to turning over the squad. The next step, the next groundbreaking thing they can do is to become the most popular team in the league. They should be insanely jealous. Yes, you've got the trophy. Your football department is elite. You're a great football team. But a great club, the next step is to be the most popular with the biggest crowds. And they would look at Brisbane and they would look at Wellington and look at the crowds they got in the semi-finals and think, my goodness, Wellington had more fans than us at a home grand final. That is the next big step they need to take.
I think that's a really great point. Very well made, Teo, and have to agree wholeheartedly with those comments. Let's now get some post-match reaction from the champions, beginning with their coach, Michael Matriciani.
Look, we can put all the structures and tactical plans in place, but we have a player like Holly and Leticia score the 2 goals that they did tonight. That's the difference. So, we can think that we make a big difference as coaches sometimes, but the reality is the players are the ones playing and they're the ones winning us the games. And yeah, very lucky to have these players, along with the whole squad, work extremely hard all game, and yeah, super proud.
I think just the absolute togetherness of everybody, and just the way that we're able to not only implement our game plan, but change when things aren't exactly how it seems on the pitch. Everybody knows everybody's job, and we can change things at the drop of the hat. So yeah, everybody is just incredibly hardworking, intelligent, and yeah, it's an amazing group of footballers. And I think we deserved what we got, and yeah, I'm so proud of everybody.
It's a 5th championship for you. You've gone back to back. You're the Claire Polkinghorne medalist. I mean, does it get any better?
No, I don't think so. Well, actually, winning the Asian Champions League, that would top it off. But I'm so proud, so happy for this team.
Oh, Claire Polkinghorne medalist Rebecca Stott there, hoping to complete the treble in South Korea. A little bit surprised when she heard that too, wasn't she? But now let's focus on our runners-up. Wellington clawing back an early goal in the second half through Michaela Woods, but City's lead was just too much in the end, Grace.
Yeah, and I think Teo was spot on. If City had not scored those 2 right before the halftime break, this could have been such a different game. And make no mistake, Wellington were a vastly improved team into the second half. Bev Priestman sort of bold enough to make an immediate change at the halftime break. Locke came off, Anthony came on, and I thought she made a really good impact. But even when you go in and dig into the stats for the second half, the first half Wellington had 7 shots with 1 on target. The second half they had 19 shots with 5 on target, dominated possession. It wasn't enough in the end because I think ultimately the chasm was too wide by that point, but it was a much improved second half.
Yeah, in the 10 minutes after they scored, there was a feeling that the comeback might be on, but then I feel as though Wellington, and I went into the numbers to see if anyone had an abnormally outlier game relative to the rest of the season, and they didn't. So when I say that Marissa Vandermeer, I thought some of the passing giveaways, playing out from the back, Melbourne City cutting off the passing lanes, winning the ball back, when even 65, 75, 80 minutes, 2 goals down, you just can't afford to waste the ball. Pinenberg had a very good first half, but again, I thought she faded as the game went on. And when we saw Lara Wall came on for Mania Elliott, I actually thought it was when Elliott was finally starting to take a few more risks and get forward and start to look like a goal-scoring threat. And they took her off for Lara Wall, who almost played as a full-time left winger. But I think they lost something that was just starting to appear. I wonder if they could have brought Brazendale on for Pinenberg for the fresh legs there. So while some of the subs did work. I just feel as though it's such fine margins when you're 2 goals down that even though the numbers don't say that players had off days, it was just those little moments where they let the momentum slip.
Taking nothing away from Melbourne City's performance, you do get the sense a little bit that Wellington felt a little overawed and the emotion of such a big occasion being their first grand final. They came out firing, but they were very emotional during the national anthem.
Dare I say, the New Zealand national anthem is a genuine problem. It is too much. You need just a good average 4 out of 10 national anthem like Advance Australia Fair. No one's going to cry. The New Zealand national anthem is too much emotion.
Okay, I'm going to disagree with you again. Look, it's a beautiful, beautiful anthem, and
too beautiful. That's my point.
Too beautiful. That's an issue. But the culture in New Zealand is that their anthem galvanises how important the country is to them, and we saw the emotion coming through from Grace Jarley. On another day, that's what gets you over the line. So never for a minute would I say the anthem is anything but spectacular.
Well, they will be better for the experience, that is absolutely for sure. Led this season and next by Bev Priestman, who spoke to Nalin Mastou post-match following the defeat.
We weren't at our best in the first half, and I think when you play good teams, they punish you for that. I think it was like, do us, like, come on, like, believe, keep going till the end, and what a comeback it would be. And I think the second half we give a much better account of ourselves, but at the end of the day, this game doesn't define our season. I'm super proud of the group. I'm proud to wear the badge. It's a special group. If I could wrap this team up right now and savour it, I think, it's been one of the happiest years of my life being on the pitch with this group of people. My staff are absolutely machines. They do a lot. And I wish we could have done it tonight, because I think, you really do get your rewards for that. But we'll be back. Bigger, better, stronger, and now we've got to push on. We've got to, these guys have been here before. They've lost finals, and they're better for it. So we'll be better for it next year, managing an occasion like tonight.
There you go. Bigger, better, stronger. They will be back. Bev Priestman saying the Knicks will be better for their grand final experience. So that leads me to say, what is next for the Knicks next season?
They should be the hot favourites for next season. If Holly McNamara does leave, you imagine that Leticia McKenna, back in the Matildas squad, should be getting overseas interest at 23 years of age. Never mind Alexia Apostolakis, not a starting 11 player by the end of the season, almost certainly would want to be moving on from Melbourne City. And yes, Melbourne City can go and try to cherry-pick talent from around the league, but it's a World Cup year next season, and any Kiwi who is overseas not getting game time at their club will know that they can come back to an elite environment at Wellington with a international standard coach that is going to give them the best possible preparation to get into the football ferns to go to Brazil. I think Wellington, with the intangibles of their home crowd, with the experience of this season, and the potential for, if Samba's back to full fitness, they'll never play an away game because they'll have the home fans, they'll have a bigger crowd than the home team everywhere they go around Australia if Samba's back. They absolutely should be favourites. Never mind, they get Alyssa Wynnum back as well. And I'm not so sure that they're, given Mackenzie Barry and Grace Jarley have already signed, they have more recontracted players for next season than any other club already, at least publicly disclosed. Grace, I'm making the case for them here that I think they can overtake City. I think they can win the premiership and absolutely finish top of the league next season. And this finals experience will help them try to go all the way.
I think that's spot on. And I think the point that Bev Priestman made about when it stings when you lose a final and you come back from it. Melbourne City have had that experience before. Wellington haven't. And when you lose a final for the very first time in your professional career, that one hurts the most. So they're going to be stinging from this for a while. But Teo's spot on in their re-signed players, not just the likes of Samba, but CJ Bott, should she recover well from a pregnancy. Alyssa Wynnum, you've mentioned Jarley, Mac Barry. There's so many good players.
And full season of Macy Fraser, back up to speed.
Brooke Nunn, Pia Vlock, not the first time to do it all over again. So there's so much consistency there.
The tough call, I think, is I don't know if Tessel Middag is going to keep playing. She did her knee in the very first game of the season. And I wonder, Mackenzie Anthony, 1 goal in 13 games. Do you want to keep her on? Bev Priestman showed what she could do flicking through the Rolodex in an emergency. Imagine what she's going to be able to find with a full off-season.
Yeah, good point as well. Well, time will tell if the Knicks can return to the bigger stage next season and if the Bevolution continues. But to the victor goes the spoils, and City certainly enjoyed their grand final win.
I can't talk without them on. super proud.
Oh, that's it. That is freezing.
What a clash at the end, Grace. They really well and truly came out here with a plan.
Well, Melissa Barbieri is certainly enjoying herself there. I'm all for drinking the Ninja Slushie out of the trophy, not so much for the shoey, but Bub's absolutely making a menace of herself. And someone who was right in the thick of all the celebrations and the actions, Nalin Mastou, welcome to the desk.
Yes.
Did you manage to stay dry?
Question is no, I didn't, and for some reason I just kept the mic there. But it's funny because I saw it from the back of like the corner of my eye, the peripheral. I was like, oh, they're coming in here. I didn't realise how hard they were coming at him, and it hit the back of his neck as well. They did come up to me after. I was like, oh, we try not to get you, but I was like, hey, if there's ever a time to do it, it is when you've just won the double in a grand final. But Grace, there was also another interruption that we saw as well on the panel in your post-game show. Bubs coming over. I mean, did you see her coming?
Well, classic Melissa Barbieri finding that little spotlight. She was meant to be on the panel earlier before the game, missed her little time slot. We had to go to an ad break, so she thought, well, I'm getting on here post-game. And rightly so, they just won the double, so fair enough.
Exactly, and you know, in that post-match presser, we saw that moment where they continued to pour more Prosecco, water, whatever it was. But there was also a funny one at the end of there where Michael sort of reacted to the fact that he was reading some comments about the fact that Holly hadn't scored in the last 5 heading into the grand final. So let's have a listen to what he had to say.
You know, I was laughing at some of the comments that I was reading online that, oh, she hasn't scored in 5 games. I'm going, great. Because when she hasn't scored, then it's even scarier. So she proved, you know, she should be proud of herself first and foremost. But yeah, maybe she shut up a few people as well.
Michael, do you have a burner?
A burner?
Burner account.
I don't even know what a burner is. Sorry.
It's like a fake account where you like would like comment.
Oh no, sorry, I don't.
Great acting there from Michael Matriciani. No burner accounts for him. But I think he was kind of referring to a few of you last week on Dub Zone, because the only chat I heard about Holly Mac's sort of goal drought was, Amy, when you posed the question.
Yeah, and I think it was a valid question at the time. Holly Mac hadn't hit the back of the net. She'd been cruising in the league. And I think, it was great. If we were motivation to get things done and to get Holly Mac to step up, then so be it. But it certainly was a magical, especially the first one, a magical goal.
And it's funny how much players and coaches, we forget that they actually read, they watch the shows and they're listening along. But Holly said she used it as motivation.
I think it's debatable whether they watch. I think parents and family and friends watch, and then they filter it, and then they pass it on, and it just has that little bit of extra motivation. The nuance gets lost in there. And for people saying, oh, do coaches have burners or not? I tweet things, and then I get texts from people who I know aren't on Twitter, so I know it's been passed on to them. But there's always eyes out there watching. And I got to say, bulletin board material seems a little bit ridiculous when you're Melbourne City, when you finish top of the league 3 years in a row. But whatever motivation you can find, because we were questioning their finals record and their ability to close it out, and they did so in spectacular style.
And ultimately, we're here to have a conversation, have an opinion, and I think if that is motivation for a player to step up in a huge moment, then we'll absolutely take it.
Absolutely, and it's ammo for a lot of social teams as well, aka Auckland FC in the men's game. But with the Ninja A-League season now over, there's still plenty of international football to look forward to. And the Matilda squad just dropped earlier as well. So there is 5 Ninja A-League players in total that have been included. You've got Holly Mac, Leticia McKenna, Isabel Gomez, Chloe Lincoln back in the mix as well as Alona Malag. And Teo, she was probably one of the biggest breakout stars for Adelaide this season. Deserved call-up?
I would have called in Teresa Morrissey first. I would have gone for an older goalkeeper. I understand that there's a big focus on the next generation. Ilona had a pretty challenging under-20 Australian campaign with the Women's Asian Cup that was at the end of the home and away season. Her A-League women's form has been great. I mean, it is a deserved call-up. I just would have looked at Morrissey, who's in the prime years of her career, and probably closer to an overseas move first. That's the direction I would have gone.
You wonder as well, though, being in Australia, that they could potentially bring in additional players in the training environment, and certainly Morrissey would be one of those.
And Amy, thoughts? Gomez back in the mix?
Yeah, I think she deserves to be there. And I think you're going to see this consistent mix of, consistent players that we see there all the time, and the introduction of hopefully in-form players coming through the Ninja A-League, but also performing overseas and being in form and getting reward for playing well and scoring goals or defending well at the same time.
Absolutely. But one player who wasn't included, Annalise Rasmussen, she has picked up right where she left off, scoring on debut, Grace, for Juventus, a cracking goal as well in what was their final game of the season. But this is something that we're used to seeing right here.
Well, so happy for her as well, because I think that's so important when you move overseas and you do break the deadlock for, debut game is one thing, but Rasmussen, if she continues in this trajectory, she's 100% in the frame, she'd be in the conversation. Joe Montemurro would be aware of her, particularly being over in Juve. But, this is what we want to see from Rasmussen. And I'm really, really pleased for her.
It was a nice, easy tapping at the end, wasn't it, Grace? Just a perfect striker's finish, a poach.
Got to be there, and she was.
Right spot, right time, putting it away. But you're right, I think it's just about doing your time overseas, proving yourself consistently week in, week out, and I don't think it'll be too long before we see a name on that Matildas list.
Totally. But back to the Ninja A-League season wrap-up, perfect way to end it, perhaps, is chatting breakout stars from each club. So Adelaide United, can we all agree? Alona Malag, is she everyone's pick?
She's my pick for sure. Yep, easy for me for Adelaide. I thought she was a standout.
Brisbane Roar, Daisy Brown is what I'm thinking.
Absolutely. I'm on the Daisy Brown bus all day.
And recognised by her peers. She made the PFA Team of the Year as well, which is a pretty good achievement as a first-year player.
Special mention to Amy Medman, because I thought she also had an excellent season, and Bente Janssen as well, but we'll stick with Daisy Brown.
Canberra United.
Bethany Gordon, I thought, was standout for me.
I thought this was Tegan Bertolicio's breakout season. I think previously, Canberra's wide defending had been a bit of an issue. We saw Bertolicio in the middle a little bit more this year. Yes, she did get a red card in one game, but Anthony Jagranek mounted a pretty passionate defence of that red card, and perhaps that it shouldn't have been given. And I think that she showed her mental toughness to come back, score a first goal, and she played brilliantly for the young Matildas as well.
And I want to give a special mention, not to a new player to the league, but to a new player to Canberra in Sasha Grove. I know it's her hometown, but I really think coming home brought out the best in her, and we saw some cracking games and some good goals from her too.
Yep. Now, tough one to pick for Melbourne City, because initially I was like, 19-year-old Daniela Butcherus, but then you forget Shelby McMahon, who just turned 18.
Yeah,
so who have you picked?
McMahon's the pick for me. I thought she was just exceptional. I know she's been in the league 3 years now, but she was great.
I wonder what sort of nickname we have. Holly Mack, are we going to have a nickname for Butcherus? Amazing to think she would have played for Western United this season had they been in the league. Now she will be back at Melbourne City next season. They'll announce that at some point after their Champions League campaign is over. But what a player to bring through for your next generation.
You might have to call it McButtress, because it seems like you need the Mc name to do great things at this club.
Yeah, Melbourne Victory, who we got?
This was a bit of a harder pick for me, because I didn't think there was a clear standout player, but probably Holly Furphy in amongst it all, still really involved in so much for Victory.
Now, it's a little bit ludicrous for me to pick a player who only played 1 minute in round 2.
Outrageous.
But I thought Poppy O'Keefe was awesome at the Under-20 Asian Cup. And I know Jeff Hopkins tends to think that a young player is 22 or 23 rather than teenagers, but my goodness, I hope she plays more next season.
Newcastle Jets, any name coming to mind?
I really liked what I saw from Josie Allen this season, and Hoban in the middle. I thought those midfield two were particularly standout. I
think there's something to work with Emma Bates. I mean, she's already gone back to NPL and she'll play for Manly United through the rest of the winter. She's a college player, so they're a little bit out of sight, out of mind, and we know how well that worked for Lauren Allen coming back to Newcastle. So I hope there's more to come from Emma Bates, and I am hearing Stephen Hoyle will be back as the Newcastle coach next season. That's not been publicised yet. I'm not sure when they're planning on announcing it, but I think that...
here's the drop here.
Well, I think
We've just publicly announced it, Teo.
Newcastle were close enough. I do wonder whether they'll go down the path of all their imports being New Zealanders next season, or whether they'll look to, look further afield. Maybe the success of the men's team might help with the budget for the women's side of the program as well. Not that it should be, related, but it is. So, hopefully Newcastle are pushing back towards finals next season.
Now, Sydney FC, Amy, I think
easy.
there's
Willa
only
Pearson.
Yeah.
Is there any other name we need to talk about?
Yeah.
Right from the beginning of the season, when we were talking about her age, firstly, and how she stood up. If she's not up there for Player of the Year honours, I don't know who else.
Tayo's got something to say.
The little red Corvette. Don't forget about Claire Corbett, please.
Yeah, but Willa played so much more time than Claire at the end of the season. And I think, coming in as a striker, as a young player, or coming in the midfield, I think you're a lot more supported than you are when you're in a defensive line that's also missing the experience of like a Nat Tobin neighbour next to you. And I think the way Willa held herself and performed as the youngest player on this team throughout the season is just outstanding. There's plenty more to come from her.
I'm intrigued as to the direction Sydney go. James Slaveski signed a 2-season contract to come in as their new coach, so they have backed him to elevate him from interim to permanent. We know they got their foreign signings wrong this year, and it was a big reason why they just didn't ever really mount a finals charge. I think it's going to be tough for this football department with just Slaveski at the top. I'd love to see a dedicated women's director of football come in as well. If that doesn't happen, they're going to have to roll the dice on their foreign imports or back the Australian youngsters, which is a little bit of a different change of approach for Sydney FC, but maybe it's time that they go down that path.
Willa for me as well.
Willa?
Yep.
Western Sydney Wanderers. I won't take any answer beside Talia Younis.
I don't think there's too much argument there, is there?
Younis for me as well.
Millie Bennett was good this season as well.
Just for the sake of disagreement, Teo. Perth Glory, who you got?
I'm going with Grace Johnston. Played every single minute for the Glory across the course of the season. I thought she was so reliable in a team that had their ups and downs. So Grace Johnston for me.
Yeah, I mean, even though Teresa Morrissey is in her mid-20s, it was her first appearance this season.
Great.
She had been a third choice, a second choice, had sat on the bench, finally got that opportunity to play in the league. And I think it's also a real credit to Stephen Peters backing someone who he had worked with in the NPL.
Yep.
And let's not forget, Teresa Morrissey had won the New South Wales NPL in 2024 and the Victorian NPL in 2025. If you're the best in your position, winning championships at the state league level, at some point or another, coaches, around the league collectively need to think, well, these players are winners for a reason. Let's give them a go at the next level up.
Wellington Phoenix, Pia Vlock. Is that everyone's pick?
Yeah, I would probably sit on Pia Vlock, but I just also, it's so hard, isn't it, in a team full of stars, because it wasn't really about even a breakout star having a breakout moment. Michaela Woods coming in mid-season and picking up, where she did and scoring the way she did and being such a feature of the back end of the season was also wonderful too.
I think it's really easy to say Pia Vlock. I don't disagree with that shout at all, but I want to go with Grace Jarley because I think in the years that we've seen her in the A-League, she had her best season yet, and when players were falling all around her, she had to suddenly play more and more roles, not just on the field, but in a leadership sense as well. No,
I mean, I agree with Pia Vlock, but I have said this on this panel before. Be cautioned by what happened with Millie Clegg. Maybe too much too soon with the overseas moves. Had hardly any game time in her overseas moves. Still gets into the football ferns occasionally, but I think play another year for Bev. Don't rush overseas. I know that the temptation to be there will be there for Pia Vlock, but let's see her with a full season and what she's capable of.
And finally, I think the only club we haven't spoken about yet, the Mariners. Last season it was Tiana Fuller. This season, Peter Trimmis, I think, has been a standout within the team.
Yeah, Peter Trimmis has been great, but I've got another name here written, which is Annalise Rasmussen, because I think I would have loved to have seen her for the entire season. I thought
she would have got the golden boot had she stayed.
She was on track. She was on track.
No one was able
they're
to
sort of
catch her.
even keel for me because I thought she was great in the time that we had her.
Peter Trimmis, though, goal of the year.
Yeah, special.
Well, until the grand final, of course.
The Mariners know how to really bring through young players. I mean, Eliza Familton stepping in to the gap left by Annalise Rasmussen. For many, that would have been daunting, but I think she took it on with aplomb. So there's a lot there to work with for the Mariners. And let's not forget, Corey Babington came in with an extremely short runway to get that team ready, to get his staff ready, to do his recruiting. He now has a full off-season, and I feel as though the Mariners will be well placed to jump back into the top 6 next season. It's not least given that their entire squad's coming out of contract. So if there's anyone they want to move on from, they can, and they can almost start afresh again.
Well, let's see how they go next season, but it is always the youngsters stepping up and always breakout stars coming through. But now, moment of the season. Now, this was really tough to pick. There were a couple outstanding ones, but Ava Piazza's absolute banger she scored against Wellington Phoenix, and Ben Homer's commentary on this one as well, chef's kiss. I mean, this is, for me personally, a big contender for goal of the season, Teo. It was struck beautifully.
And for Piazza, at her third A-League women's club, having not really worked out at Canberra or Newcastle, went overseas, tried playing in Armenia, would you believe, came back to Australia. And it's a credit to Alex Smith. And again, like I've said on this panel, I gave him the 3, I think it was Jagrenek the 2 and Priestman the 1 for the voting in Coach of the Year, because Alex Smith just found a way to get the best out of his players in so many situations where you wouldn't have expected that. And I'm sure that Newcastle and Canberra were sitting there saying, wait, the same Ava Piazza? So it's a great moment for Ava and also a real credit to the Raw.
Your moment?
It has to be summer in Wonderland. I mean, we got a look at what this league will be like in the future when the clubs do their research into demographics and maybe sign targeted signings. They don't have to break the bank, but maybe they can fall into the marquee category if they can make the case that this is what we can do, turbocharging the crowds. And it's such a credit to Wellington that it was away games. And I keep saying, when Auckland come into this league, they should put the biggest offer they can in front of Courtney Vine, because you can come back and live in close to Australia, but you won't be stopped in the street in Auckland by people wanting your autograph, but at every away game, you'll sell out the stadium. So that is my blueprint for success. Sign a marquee that's a big draw, not just at home, but away as well.
And Teo said he's more than willing to give away more flags.
Where is that other flag?
It never came back. It never came back.
Lost to Western Sydney somewhere.
Grace, your moment?
Yeah, I think for me, we think about football and moments that are bigger than what happens on the park, and that was Wellington Phoenix this season. Bev spoke about it from day dot, that she wanted to create a moment that New Zealanders remembered when and where they were. And this is a watershed moment for New Zealand football. This is the first time the Wellington Phoenix and New Zealand team has ever been in finals. Samba, spot on, but the young players as well coming up through, packing out Porirua Park. The first time we've seen a tifo for a female coach in the women's game. It is so much bigger than just football, and I think this sets a real precedent for not only New Zealand but the A-League. That's really hard to top, in my opinion.
I mean, you guys spoke about it earlier, but even chatting to Bev, she was getting emotional even pre-game about what this moment means. And the fact that all the girls who even were injured were still in attendance, you know, cheering on the girls. The camaraderie is unmatched within the league, and also the fact that if we include the men's, it is the first time we've seen now 2 New Zealand sides in a grand final, which speaks volumes of exactly what's happening across the ditch and the development they've made. But Amy?
I was going to say hats off to Bev as well for having a beer with her supporters.
She said she wasn't going to in the tunnel. She's like,
Bev and beverages, there's some marketing in that, I can tell you.
It also says something about the platform and the amplification that this competition can give. Like, Bev's career rehab after her year-long suspension is going really well because of the microphone that Wellington and the platform that the A-League has given her to show the results rather than toiling in obscurity. I mean, Corinne Diak's out of a job. I mean, I don't know what her English is like, but, you know, is that the next international world-class coach that might want to try the Ninja A-League?
Any women coaches, they're welcome in the league. That's the call I'd say. Want to hear my moment? Well, Grace stole all of Wellington Phoenix's moments, and there were plenty of those. We mentioned the Peter Trimmis goal, but I've gone for something that might not have changed the way that the season turned out, but could have been the most spectacular moment of the season. I take you back to when Newcastle is playing against Western Sydney Wanderers here. Melina goes for the overhead. It looks for sure to go in the top corner, only for Sham Khamis to knock it out. That would have been goal of the season for sure had it gone in, and the audacity of Melina Ayres to hit it perfectly.
Well, and the fact Ayres came back from that sabbatical. You know, there are so many players out rehabbing ACLs at the moment who might be in the dog days of feeling like they're not making any progress. And, you know, in Melina's case, it was fell out of love with football and just needed time to clear her head and come back. But, you know, talent is talent, and it was great to see her re-find her best. And, of course, she scored in the second game against the Wanderers, meaning she had that unique stat of ticking off every opponent that she'd scored against in the Ninja A-League.
There you go. Well, thank you, Nalin. Much appreciated. Thank you to Teo and Grace for being here and wrapping up what a remarkable season it has been. That is it for another season of Dub Zone. A huge thank you to the team behind the scenes that puts this show together week in, week out. Nalin, Teo and Grace, thank you for your contribution to our grand final recap. And the biggest thank you, of course, to our audience and fans of the Ninja A-League. We hope you enjoyed the show and the season. I'm Amy Duggan. Hope to see you next season. Goodbye.